Folks, welcome to the Jake Feinberg Show, and joined today by an absolutely classic individual, a dear friend of the program, and an amazing drummer, Wen-Ting. Welcome.
Hi.
Can you talk about rhythm as a healing force for you in your life? How early in your life did rhythm become that for you?
Like when I was younger. Oh.
You're good.
Like when I was younger, I just loved listening to music, and I guess I didn't really think about it before. It just makes me feel good. It makes me feel calm, and like it just take me out of what I was frustrated of for like a second or.
Listening to music, or actually the actual application of it?
No, like earlier, just by listening.
And what kind of music was that? Was it like a Taiwanese opera? Like, what were you listening to?
Oh yeah, like when I was younger, I didn't know about anything about jazz. I just listened to like pop music, and just like Taiwanese pop music, or just some songs on the radios. And it's like when I started to play drum set in high school, I started to listen to all those drummers, like Dennis Chambers, Dave Wacko, Vinny Colaiuta, more like fusion type of drummer, or some like James Brown,
The syncopated stuff. What was it about that you got off on?
Pocket. Yeah, it's just like that pocket is right there, and it's like, it just makes you want to dance. It makes you feel good.
What was the first trap set you had? I mean, was it a modified set? I mean, was it just like a bass and a bass drum and a snare, or was it a full like? How did you get comfortable working the entire trap set?
To be honest, when I was in Taiwan, I don't really have my I don't really have my own set, cause I just in Taiwan I live in an apartment. It's very crowded. I live in Taipei, and so we can't really practice.
I mean, you can barely walk in an apartment, let alone put a trap set in there. So you didn't have your own. So where would you shed?
I go to school to shed, or I go to the place I teach, like music school I teach, and they have practice room there. I just go there and shed. Yeah, so sometimes it's hard. I have my own snare drum, that's it.
Right.
And I couldn't even play at home, so it's always practice pad. But I go to the practice room to play drums.
Can you talk about the first time you were on the bandstand? When was that first experience? And were you playing fusion? I mean, I hate labels, but what kind of music was it?
It was rock. It's more not really like fusion. For me, I just love to listen to it, but obviously that's too hard for me. I really don't understand all the syncopation that they were doing. I was just like, whoa, that sounds cool.
Right. It sounded great, but it was the language was a little bit foreign.
Yeah.
I mean, how far along? And so maybe the better question is, when did you first get a chance to start experimenting with that kind of stuff? Because the guys you mentioned they're all kind of wizards,
Yeah, like the music I started to play, it's kind of like rock music or band music. Like I remember in high school, it's like rock band, some Coldplay.
Yeah.
Or like Radiohead and Tokyo Incident. I remember because like those bands I know in Mandarin, so I don't really know their names in English.
Of course.
And I started to join the high school rock band, and we had our own band, and we like manage our own performance. We go out and get money, raise some money for our own performance. And we ran a really nice concert hall for our
So just to be clear, you had to actually raise money to rent a hall in order to play.
Yeah, that's like back in high school. That's how we did it.
I think it's really important, like in the time that we're living in now, to talk a little bit about why you chose to come to the United States as an immigrant, and is this where you want you to make your life?
Yeah, that's a tough question. I mean, I'm still searching. Yeah, but like the reason why I came here is because music, of course.
Now explain, but I mean, there's plenty of music in Taiwan.
Yeah, but I mean, it's the spirit of how serious the musicians are, and like the lifestyle that the musicians are living and creating the environment.
Can you talk about it a little more specifically? I mean, is it the calling you're talking about?
Yeah, like, okay, so high school I started with rock bands, right? Some like band, pop band musics. And then, but I always been listening to like funk, James Brown, you know, those like dancing music. Earth, Wind and Fire, Stevie Wonder. I love those people.
Sly and the Family Stone.
Yeah. And like.
Was that stuff was it accessible like on vinyl or CD, or were you listening to it was there American radio?
Yeah, like CDs. Like we have a group of musicians. We're all there's some I called a teacher at that time, and they share a lot of different music with me, and I was just listening to it, but never thought about like one day I'll come here and actually really look at them like closely and connected to them, you know. Never thought about it when I was in high school. I still remember when I was in high school, I go to the venue to see those teachers play, and I'm just like, wow, one day I want to be there, you know. And then I made it, and when I made it, it's just like, oh, it's just like that. Next, you know, like what's the next step? And like then I just gradually come along those small steps. And in college, I started to listen to jazz, and I was like, okay, wow, like those drummers, I don't know what they're doing, but the vibe, it's incredible. It's just,
and they make it, at least from the ear point of view, it sounds kind of simple, but it's not. I mean, it's really hard.
It is really hard, but like I guess it's the vibe. It's really simple. Like for me, the first time I heard it, I don't feel that, oh my god, this music is hard. That's not how I feel. I just feel, wow, they have so much freedom. And like the swing that just bounce a lot.
Right, they're able to stretch the boundaries as far as the rules will take them. You know, They don't go outside of that, but they are. I guess that's freedom. So I mean, for you coming here, had you already experienced that freedom?
Yeah, like I started to listen to it, and I feel like, wow, this is really incredible. Like just the vibe they're generated. It's so energetic, so it makes me feel alive, you know. So then I started to learn more about jazz. I went to the summer jazz camp in Taiwan, and that's where I met my professors.
Can you throw some names out there?
Yeah, it's Antonio Hart and Michael Philip Mossman. Wow. They're both incredible musicians and incredible person, like human beings. And I remember I went to that camp for 3 years in a row, and every year I'm just so excited to see them, just want to be around them and talk music with them. And it's like, so I get to taste a little vibe of that, you know, because like everything that's about music, and they're serious about it. So
I mean, did you have opportunities to actually play? What was the most valuable experience? Was it just being able to connect at a heart-to-heart level with these cats, or did you get to actually play with them too?
Yeah, I played with them a little bit, like when I was in the camp at that time. That's maybe like the first time maybe like 4 years ago, or five years ago, I think. And then it's hard to explain. It's just, so when they play, they just like pull everybody up, and then you're just like, let me just hop on this train that they're creating, you know. It's like yes, let's go, and it's the power of like gathering people together. And when they talk about music, it's not only about music, it's about life. It's about every day, the attitude, they see things, they talk about like what's the right attitude concept to treat this music, and it's about life. It's just serious. They think and reflect back to themselves a lot too. And it's that kind of quality makes me feel like, oh damn, like I want to be around them,
You want to get on that magic carpet, but I mean,
yeah.
So at this point, I didn't mean to cut you off before, but coming here,
Yeah.
like what was it? How did you connect with cats? I mean, what have you learned on the bandstand about yourself most as a musician here?
Here, it's really different. It's like, wow, like now when I look back, it's like I'm in a very different place now. Cause when I first came here, I also didn't think I am going to stay or I'm going to meet a lot of people, something like that.
What did you think? You thought you were going to come for a cup of coffee and then go?
No, but the only thing I was thinking is just like, I want to be, because I went to school in Queens College and I just graduated last year. But like, the first thought I had is just, I just want to come here and learn those experiences. And I go out, listen to music, I learn from the professors, I practice every day, working really hard just to absorb as much as possible. And now it's like, oh, I get to play a little bit. Oh, I know that person. Oh, I know, like, I won't say I fit in really well now, but I really met a lot of amazing people and musicians that I never thought I would meet before.
Are you open to playing, like if someone comes along and says, we have a more of a folk gig, or something outside of the jazz realm, are you willing to take, is it all music for you? Are you willing to take on those kinds of different kind of gigs?
Yeah, as long as it's
I mean, have you been exposed to music of like the band, Levon Helm, more roots music, Americana music? Is that something that's been on your radar, or are you really just in the fusion bag?
No, like, I'm open to every genre of music as long as it sounds good, Because, like, I know sometimes it's hard to tell, you can't say really what is really bad, what's really good, but I believe music, they're good music.
Absolutely, it's good. It's all music, it's good or bad,
Yeah, and, I've been in some situations I feel like, this is really not happening, not my vibe. They're nice people, but maybe, like, it's okay. You will find someone else who loves you,
It's not, yeah. But I mean, I guess what I'm saying is like, how much of a calling is it for you? You playing last night with a all female quartet, is that right?
Yeah.
And you guys are playing like just basically straight ahead music, but I mean,
straight ahead jazz.
I mean, how much of a calling is music for you at this point now that you are here and you're beyond the learning stage and you're clearly in the professional stage? Can you talk about that need to be on the bandstand? Is that something that is a necessity for you, and how many times a week, and if so?
I mean, getting gigs in New York, it's really not that easy.
Because in the past it would be like the cats would like hang at a place called Jim and Andy's. I think Jim was the owner and Andy was a cat. It was a bar. So the guys would come in, and then Radio Registry would call on the phone and say, hey, we need a trumpet player, a sax player for the studio. And if you were there, you got the gig. I mean, it was really simple. Now the only way you get a gig is how?
There are a lot of different ways.
But you said it's hard.
I guess the one thing which is important is connections. You really have to know people, because that's very
trust people or know people. I mean, I guess you have to have some kind of symbiotic relationship.
Yeah, that's the hardest part, because like you might be good, but if you don't know anybody, nobody knows you, especially here in New York.
People know you. They're having a ball watching you. Actually, they just want to hear you play. You want to play? Can you play a little bit more for the audience?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, well, I don't know what.
They don't want to hear me babbling on. So.
I don't know. What's the play?
Yeah, whatever. Play whatever you want.
Let me think. This snare drum is killing me. Okay. Okay, let me start something.
Dude, Clyde Stubblefield and Jabo Starks, James Brown's drummers, rest in peace, they would be proud of that. You know, if you one day become a leader of your own band,
Yeah.
you know, some people say about Carlos Santana that he's a great Indian chief, but he's also a great Indian, meaning that he is one of the cats. You know, just he doesn't put himself above the group. But I just ask Wen-Ting Wu, you know, what are the strongest qualities of leadership when you do become a leader of a band?
I think being a leader in a band, it's the first time I really had a strong experience of how to do this position, how to be in this position. It's when I had my recital last year, and it's just like, I think it's interesting. It's fun. It's actually like there are a lot of things that you have to do. You have to find the musicians.
Mm-hmm.
You have to find the right musicians for the music that you want to do, and the relationship between those musicians, do they work, or just the vibe, because everything is about the vibe. The vibe has to be good. If the vibe is good, everybody has good energy, and then we kind of open mind to each other. That's when real music happen. And
so you're not going to bring people into your gig. I mean, cats on the bandstand, unless the vibe is already there. I guess what I'm trying to say is on the bandstand.
Mm-hmm.
How do you lead a band? How do you, if somebody's playing going off too much or saying too much, non-verbally, how do you?
Yeah.
You know, what are some of the qualities like that you would use on the bandstand to be a positive leader?
I guess one thing I think is very important is that you have to know what you're looking for. That's really the main thing, because
a vision or
yeah, like what kind of sound, what kind of vibe, what kind of atmosphere you're looking for. And if that person is playing too much, hey, that sounds really good, I liked it, but in this song I'm looking for another kind of
Can you hit
vibe.
something on the drums to let them know to stop talking?
Not really. I usually just like eye contact and I'll be,
and glare at them.
Yeah, I mean, but there's also space. If they want to play, I let them play. It's okay.
Well, that's part of it. That's
yeah,
right, that's
it's
right.
like okay, you going for it. Let's go. Like I support you. You know, it's all about. It's not really about like myself. It's a teamwork. So I also open my mind and take some opinions from them, and it goes nowhere. Like it won't go there if you don't have them with you. So I take that as in a positive way to have more opinions and everybody's working on something and make it sound better.
What would be your ideal like instrumental setup of a band? Like what would you want to have in your band? What kind of instruments? The Crusaders, for instance, they had tenor, sax, and trombone on the front line. Augmented with keys and guitar and bass. Art Blakey had his own group. But what would Wen-Ting Wu have? What kind of instruments? I mean, would you have timbales? Would you have vibes? No percussion? What would it be?
For now, I guess it depends on what kind of tunes I'm looking for. But I like playing in trio and also sextet, with trumpet and tenor. Rhythm section, sextet, trio, and I mean trio can be piano trio or just horns. I also like horns, like I don't know, maybe like alto saxophone and bass and drums. I did that before at school too.
No, it's beautiful, yeah.
And
what about no bass?
No bass. That's possible, like in my.
Well, it's definitely possible. I'm just saying how comfortable you are doing it.
That's also possible if like there's no bass.
There was a lot of cats that grew up 50 years ago. They would in their high school bands there'd be 3 guitars but no bass, and they just have a drummer. So for a long time there actually wasn't a string bass. But
I like playing duo in this kind of in this case. Like if there's no bass player, I like playing duos with horn players. That's a very different.
Well, that's like Coltrane and Elvin right there.
A very different concept of communicating, and you can be very focused on what that person is doing. It's pretty intimate. I like that kind of setting too.
Do you feel that you are understood by your family and your people in Taiwan? In the sense that they respect and understand the journey, the sacred journey that you're on? Because there's only 2 letters that separate magic and music, and that's what I cover. I cover musicians, and now oftentimes I get off more on the musicians than the music themselves because they're magical. And you have some magic in you. But it's hard when you're talking to people that maybe don't want to dive into that multidimensional part of themselves to find the magic, and they're very focused on, their view is very narrow. And the Asians love that narrow view. I mean, I'm not trying to paint with a broad brush, but it's very much like you do this, and then you do this, and then in your life, and then you're fine. But if you do anything avant-garde, or you do anything risky or insecure, you're crazy.
Yeah, I guess that with this question, there are a lot of different aspects you can look at it. I'll say if it's like the narrow-minded thing, probably more on the business side.
Yeah.
When you have to work with different people, some people would be like, oh yeah, you sound cool, like just giving like attitudes or, I don't really know what they're thinking, so I can't speak.
You don't maybe even care anymore at this point.
I mean, I used to care a lot.
Absolutely.
Yeah, but now it's like, it's okay. Like it's really okay. Like Or I should tell myself still in the process of it's okay, you know, it's okay. Like you don't need him, or it's everybody has different like ways to view things, and I respect that. I probably don't agree with that, but it's whatever.
But
like,
do you still connect with those cats, when the rock and roll cats that you were on the bandstand with in high school in Taiwan? How much more, like, how have you changed, or when you see yourself in that mirror and you're like, wow, I'm in a different place now? I mean, do those cats look at you and they're like, I mean, do you still have those connections?
I mean, yeah, like they're my friends, you know, and like. For me, they're not just musicians. For me, if I play with them for a long time, they're friends. And I mean, I've been in a band, like I feel more like they're musicians.
Sure.
And we don't hang out really like, you know, this outside the.
But you've
the
journeyed
music.
here though. Not many of them have, right?
Yeah, and I mean there's some musicians before I came here, they were like, why you spend a lot of money just going up studying abroad? And like,
There it is, right there.
If I were you, I spend it on studio. You know, I
Right.
make my own studio and
Right.
record music, but I was like, you're not me. Like I wanted to come here. Like that's the magic like I'm searching for. And if you don't understand, it's fine. You do your thing. You don't have to criticize me. You know, like I don't criticize you. Why are you doing a studio? You know,
Right.
I think that's cool. But like now. Sometimes I post on Facebook like, oh, what I did in New York, I'm doing this, and they were like, oh, cool, like, oh, you're making it happening, and oh yeah, I'm like, yep, I'm like, yep, bye, yep.
Like, when someone was just asking when your next gig is going to be, do you have one lined up?
Like
You played last night at
the Soundbite restaurant.
Soundbites Midtown.
Yeah, it's kind of Midtown, like Hell's Kitchen.
Yeah.
That's a really great restaurant. I like it. It's good vibe there, and the owner, they support music, and yeah, that's a good place. But for now, like I don't have. I'm trying to write more and to book my own gigs. But for now, like I don't have a very specific date for you guys. But you can always go on my website.
Yeah, dig.
It's wentingwoomusic.com. If I have any gigs coming out or any cool project, I'll post it on my website. And I think in April, I'm going to do a few gigs with Frank Lacey, that's a trombone player, and because we met last summer and we did a very interesting type of music, like going back to the genre thing. It's like very avant-garde kind of free jazz.
Music, it's free. And what does free mean to you? I mean, that has a connotation to everybody. I mean, is there a structure to it?
Yeah, there's definitely a structure to it, but at certain point, he's just being a conductor and be like, play, you, go.
Well, that's what Sun Ra would do. He would point to Julian Priester and say, "You're go." You know,
and like
you do it.
Yeah, louder,
Get it out.
louder,
Get it
and
out of
like,
your system.
Okay, shh, and you go, and shh, you know. And that for me is interesting because like it seems like it doesn't make sense, but it really does make sense because you understand what he's looking for, like because he's a great conductor and he knows what's next, like what the next thing is happening, which makes sense, and it just goes there, and you can predict that because it's reasonable. So you're just working with him. And he's a very energetic person, and he has a lot of energy. How can I say? It's just like sometimes I feel down and I go to his gig because just by watching him makes me feel better. I'm like, I'm alive again, you know. That's for me. He's like that.
There's a lot of people that have been inspired by the Jake Feinberg show, and I'm just gonna, before we wrap, can you liberate some people with some free rhythms before we wrap up? Whining.
Free rhythms. Let's see. Okay.
Wentingwoomusic.com.
Yeah, that's my website.
Dig. Wen-Ting Wu, thank you so much for being part of the Jake Feinberg Show.
No problem.
再见.
Bye. Thank you.
It's the Jake Feinberg Show. We'll see you later.